us out on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter to stay up to date with all new TWC content that gets put out. And yeah, let's get into it. So the Dodgers are your 2024 World Series champions. They beat the Yankees in 5 games, and boy, does Game 5 have a lot of people talking. So in Game 4, the Yankees beat the Dodgers 11-4. Yankees really caught fire in the bottom of the eighth. They got so hot, even Aaron Judge got a hit, which was a rare sight in this series. And they actually did a good job of carrying that momentum over in Game 5. And going into the fifth inning, Garrett Cole was throwing a no-hitter. Yankees were up 5-0. Everything was looking great up in New York. And honestly, it was going so good. I was seriously wondering if the Dodgers were about to blow a 3-0 lead because that would have just been historic. I think the entire state of California would have had a meltdown if another LA team blew a massive lead. But unfortunately for the Yankees, fortunately for the sports fans of California, the Dodgers scouting report, it paid off. So apparently going into the game, the Dodgers' scouting report said that the Yankees were talent over fundamentals, and that if they wanted to win, they just need to make the Yankees play actual baseball and not rely on their talent. And man, did that happen in the fifth inning. So going in, like I said, the Yankees were on fire. Aaron Judge, Jazz Chisholm, and Giancarlo Stanton all had home runs. Then in the start of the fifth, Kiki Hernandez gets the first hit of the game off of Garrett Cole, it's just a single, so no big deal, runner on first. Then Tommy Edman comes up and hits a routine pop fly to Aaron Judge, and this is where people say everything changed. So Aaron Judge has probably caught this sort of pop fly, who knows, over 1,000 times in his MLB career. But this time he missed it. The ball hit his glove and he just couldn't bring it in. This was his first error of the season, and it couldn't have come at a worse time. So John Smoltz says on commentary that Aaron Judge was looking ahead to Kiki Hernandez because Kiki had a huge lead and he was trying to turn a double play. He might have thought he had a chance to get him out at first if he caught the ball. So if you look at really closely at the replay of Aaron Judge's catch, his eyes dart towards first base right as the ball is about to come into his glove. And that one little eye dart, according to the commentators, is what threw off his angle, and the ball hits him right in the glove. There's just no other way to put it. He just whiffed on that play. So that left runners at second and first with no outs. And the next play, Will Smith is up, and he hits a grounder to shortstop, and Anthony Volpe picks up the ball in the backfield. And by the time Volpe got the ball, Kiki Hernandez was already three-fourths of the way to third. So Volpe tries to get the ball off almost immediately, but ends up throwing it in the dirt. It was one of those situations where he had zero reaction time to be able to get set and throw. It was the second his hand touched the ball, he immediately treated it like a hot potato and just tried to get it off as quick as possible. Jazz Chisholm tried to get it on the bounce, but Kiki slid into third at the same time, so he wasn't able to get it. He didn't even catch the ball. It kind of dribbled around third base for a second or two before he got a hold of it. So those two mistakes got the bases loaded with no outs, and there was big time panic at Yankee Stadium. But it seemed like the Yankees were going to be able to collect themselves. Garrett Cole, he looked like he was going to be the hero of the inning because he immediately struck out Gavin Lux and Shohei back to back to get 2 outs. So went from a potentially disastrous bases loaded with no outs to bases loaded and 2 outs and 2 batters. So things looked like they were coming back up Yankee Street. Then the bottom fell out. So what happened right here? People have been pointing to Aaron Judge all week, saying it was that missed pop fly that really, you know, it cost the Yankees the game. That was the Yankees Steve Bartman moment. This error right here was worse. So Mookie Betts makes contact and sends a grounder up the first baseline. The Yankees could not have asked for a better play, an easier play to end the inning with. Anthony Rizzo doesn't charge the ball. He fields it, waits for it to come to him, and Garrett Cole starts running over to first. But Rizzo was so close to first by the time the ball goes into his glove, and Mookie was so far away that Cole just stops dead in his tracks because he figures Rizzo will get up and sprint over to first and make the play himself. So instead of going to cover first, he just kind of sits back and becomes a spectator like everybody else watching the game. Well, Anthony Rizzo, before he bent down his head and went to get the ball, he saw Garrett Cole running towards first, so he expected Cole to be there. And so when he came up, he wasn't coming up ready to run for his life. He was expecting to just toss the ball to first, like Volpe had just tried to toss the ball to third 3 plays earlier. And by the time he realizes he has to run to first to get the out, Mookie Betts, as Usain bolted it, and he beat him to the bag. So that let Kiki Hernandez score. So as much like pearl clutching as there's been over these 3 plays, at the end of it, like after all 3 of those errors happened, the Yankees are still up 5-1. So for all the people saying it was the errors that ruined the game, like it certainly put them in the position to blow it, but the errors themselves only directly led to one score. Next up, Freddie Freeman hits a 2-run single, and then Teoscar Hernandez hits a 2-run double after that. So by the end of the inning, 3 errors later, Yankees go from up 5-0 to a tie game, and that half inning killed them psychologically. So Giancarlo Stanton got an RBI off a sac fly in the bottom of the 6th, and it put the Yankees back up 6-5. But then Gavin Lux and Mookie had 2 sac flies of their own in the top of the 8th that gave the Dodgers a lead and the win. So all the talk coming out of the game has been about that disastrous 5th inning. And Aaron Judge has been the scapegoat because he was the first of those dominoes to fall. Now, his awful hitting performance in the series already had him on thin ice, and people were just waiting to get on board the Aaron Judge hate train. And with that missed pop-up, he pretty much played the role of conductor and said, all right, everybody on board. I'm going to be the guy now. And there's no defending the air. And, I mean, if what was said is true about the fact that he was looking ahead to first before he finished catching the ball, like, you can't put the cart before the horse like that. And there's no excuse, even like if it wasn't that and he just straight up missed it, then he should have caught it. But no matter where you come down on that, you can't blame that inning on Aaron Judge. That collapse is on the whole team. Part of being a professional is being able to mentally recover when you make an error. And shoot, when I played baseball, I was the absolute worst, or any sport really, about making an error, getting mad about it, getting so mad, I'm like, I'll never do that again, and getting so amped up that it throws you off, that you spend so much time focusing on, I'm not going to make an error again. It actually is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it makes you play worse. Now, this is different because no one player made multiple mistakes, but I think the same principle still applies. You see Judge miss the foul ball, and now there are runners in scoring position, and it's like, oh shoot, this is it. Like, we have zero room for error. We can't mess up. And that gets your mind thinking about mistakes and how bad it would be to make one. And once that gets in your head, you start making mistakes. Professionals have to know how to nip those jitters in the bud and move on to the next play. The Volpe error, I think, is the only one that's really defensible. It's an error because he made a short throw, but I really don't fault him for it. If he stopped to collect himself to make a good throw, he would have been late, and Hernandez would have been safe at third anyways. The play at first base was the worst of the 3. I mean, Garrett Cole is lucky that Aaron Judge played like trash this entire series, and so people were already ready to burn him at the stake. It's hard to say that, like, what would have happened if Aaron Judge had been playing well up to this point, but I feel like he would have had more room, more like grace room, more rope to get by with. But if it wasn't for that, like Garrett Cole, like everybody's got the tomatoes and the steak out for Aaron Judge. I think Garrett Cole was the one who dropped the ball, no pun intended, sorry, Aaron Judge, the worst in that inning. But it's hard to say that this collapse changed much, though. People are saying it's the worst inning in World Series history, and I don't know how true that is statistically, but people are also saying it's like the worst collapse they've ever seen in like a championship game or series. Don't get it twisted. The Yankees were down 3-0 in the series, and they managed to get a game. So they were 3-1 in this game. Even if they won this game, that still puts them at 3-2. The chances of them winning the series, even if they won that game, were not very good. Even if they didn't choke. But what makes this sting so much, it might, if you're a Yankees fan, it might feel like the worst collapse in, I don't, you know how Yankees fans are, they love to exaggerate, but it might feel like the worst collapse in sports history because, to borrow a line from Vince McMahon, it was the Yankees who screwed the Yankees. There was truly a palpable momentum shift occurring in that inning, and the Yankees were the one who crushed their own momentum. If the Yankees lost because the Dodgers managed to play good enough to swing momentum back their way, that's one thing. But the fact that the Yankees stifled their own momentum is what makes this hurt so much. And you can't blame it all on the fifth inning. The Yankees got the lead back in the sixth, so they still could have pulled it out in spite of all those errors. But I won't lie, when I was watching it, it felt like the Yankees were doomed after that inning. Because even when they got the lead back, it just felt like all the air had been let out of that balloon. So Freddie Freeman is the World Series MVP. He also set the record for the most consecutive World Series games with a home run with 6 in a row. 2 of those were from the last time he was in the World Series with the Braves in 2021. And of course, he hit home runs in the first 4 games of this series. So he went 6 for 20 and hit 300. He tied Dave Roberts' record for the most RBIs in a World Series with 12. He was far and away the MVP of the series. And I don't know, I'd have to look through like other series of like all-time great performances, but that very well could have been the greatest World Series performance of all time. I mean, apparently, I don't know who Dave Roberts is. Apparently, he balled out in one World Series, but I can't think of another World Series off the top of my head where, I mean, just based on the batting average, it's not like he only hit 300, which is like really good. But I'm sure you can find World Series of somebody hitting like 400 or something back in the 50s. But just the sheer like dingers that he was hitting, like it was insane. It's like every time you saw him come up to the plate, you felt like it was going to be a home run or a big hit in some form or fashion. It was the complete opposite of Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. But going into the series, I wanted the Yankees to win. But after the Grand Slam, I was Team Dodgers because I would have hated to see that Grand Slam become a historical footnote instead of the all-time great moment that it should be and that it now will be because of this Dodgers win. And also, going into the series, I said I was most excited to see the duel between Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani since they're both expected to be the MVP favorites from their respective leagues. Well, it turns out the two of them were locked in a duel to see who could play worse, and it was a hard-fought duel. Aaron Judge went 4 for 18. Of those 4 hits, one was a homer and one was a double, and both of those happened in Game 5. He batted 222. He had 3 RBIs, struck out 7 times, walked 4 times, got hit by a pitch once, and of course had the big flub in center field. Shohei, meanwhile, went 2 for 19, struck out 5 times, walked twice, had 0 RBIs, and was hit by a pitch once. So, once again, I'm not trying to play the role of like Aaron Judge defender here, but the amount of hate that he's getting, and I've been giving him a lot of hate over the last like episode or two, but it is extreme compared to other people that should also be in the hot seat. I'm not saying Aaron Judge shouldn't be in the hot seat, but other people should be giving him some company at that table. Because objectively, Shohei Ohtani had a worse series. But it feels like Aaron Judge has a worse series because his team struggled and people were fixated on his performance because that was seen as a major cause of the struggle or something that could jumpstart the team if only he could get going. Shohei's struggles, meanwhile, got swept under the rug for three reasons. One, because Freddie Freeman and the rest of the team were playing out of their mind because he dislocated his shoulder and because he played really good in the playoffs leading up to the World Series. So, on point number one, I mean, it's just like plain and simple. His poor play doesn't mean as much because the Dodgers still won. So if you're a Dodgers fan at the end of the series, like, yeah, whatever, Shohei went 2 for 19. We won, we won. Nobody's in a bad mood, so nobody's gunning for Shohei the way they are Aaron Judge right now. And I mean, Freddie Freeman, like, he plays so good that nobody's talking about Shohei. Number two, though, is where I think Shohei is getting a lot of grace online that I don't think he should be. So John Smoltz said on commentary that Shohei was smart to stay in the lineup despite his shoulder injury because people knew it only takes one hit from Shohei to change a game, and it inspired confidence. I could not disagree more with that take because Shohei didn't do anything to warrant the idea that, oh, just one hit from Shohei could change the game. It was like, I felt like when Shohei walked up to the plate, you could just mark up and out for the Yankees. He contributed next to nothing after game two when he hurt his shoulder. Now, you could even see him wincing in pain after taking swings. His shoulder was hurting him so much. To me, you only get props for playing through the pain if you actually perform. MJ played with the flu, and it was an iconic moment because he balled out. If he played with the flu and scored 13 points on 20% shooting, nobody would be talking about the flu game later. He would have gotten zero flowers for it. It would not have been an iconic moment. If you're hurt and you're so hurt that you can't contribute, take yourself out of the lineup and give somebody else a shot to step in. I'll give him game three because he didn't know, I would imagine, the extent to how much the injury would affect his play. So if you want one game, feel it out, see how good you can do. But when you go 0 for 3 or 0 for 4 or whatever it was, and you're wincing after every swing, maybe take it easy, big fella, especially when you just had Tommy John surgery and already have arm struggles and you're a part-time pitcher. So relax and sit this one out because I mean, either it was his shoulder was hurting him. Because, I mean, objectively, that is what's best for the team. Yeah, Shohei, when he's on his stuff, is an MVP caliber player. But when he's not on his stuff, and if he's not on his stuff because of his injury, and he's in pain, then sit out. So I'm not gonna give him grace because he chose to play hurt when him doing so is detrimental to the team. Now, I mean, if they did let him sit out game four and whoever else they would put in at the DH spot sucked and also went 0 for 4, then sure, bring Shohei back in for game 5 and 6, or I guess there is no game 6, but because that way at least your upside's higher if he does get something going. But I mean, if it wasn't the shoulder and he did just straight up play bad, then he should be fairly criticized. And Shohei had a batting average of 364 with 8 hits, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, and 9 runs scored in the NLCS. Unlike Aaron Judge, who played horrible all postseason. So people were very high on Aaron Judge going into the World Series. He didn't play great, but you can't say he didn't contribute to the Dodgers' postseason run as a whole. So I feel like that's just why nobody's really fussing about how badly he played, and nobody's really, decrying Shohei for choking in the World Series. But if you're going to be throwing some tomatoes at Aaron Judge, send some Shohei's way too. Now, some other interesting stuff in the World Series. Mookie Betts is now the only active MLB player with 3 rings. He won one with the Red Sox in 2018, with the Dodgers in 2020, and now the Dodgers in 2024. He averaged 278 for the series. Tommy Edman batted 294 and had a home run. So, like, the Dodgers supporting cast just really showed out this go around. And kudos to them. They deserve it. And for a World Series that only lasted 5 games, it was actually a lot of fun to watch. Now, in Game 5, too, there was another talking point that came out of it because 2 Yankees fans, or maybe it was Game 4, 2 Yankees fans got ejected because Mookie Betts went to catch a ball and it went over into the stands and he caught it, but 2 Yankees fans grabbed his glove and one like grabbed the glove and the other like wrestled the ball out, and it ended up being called offensive interference. Fans got kicked out. They got banned from the rest of the series, and a lot of people were saying they should be banned from Yankee Stadium for life. And for the one thing, they said that their job was to play defense, that they felt like they were a part of the team. That's just so stupid because, one, you're on national television. It's not like, the olden days of the 20s where if there was a play like that, you could swat at Mookie Betts' gloves and there's no way to hold you accountable if the referee or the umpires don't see it, and you can get away with that. They have cameras. So it's not you playing defense, it's an automatic offensive interference play every time that you decide to do that. So, one, your entire theory of which you justify that activity is just wrong. Secondly, it's just a game. Like, you could actually hurt somebody doing that. Like, what happens if you grab a hold of Mookie Betts and you accidentally, like, break his wrist or fracture his finger or something? Like, there's just so much that could have gone wrong there. And it's just, at the end of the day, even if it's a World Series, it's not that deep. There's no need to grab a hold of a player and do that to him. So, I mean, I don't think they should be banned for life, but at least like a season or two, just to put them in Yankees timeout. Go sit and think about what you did, and maybe don't ever let them get front row seats at whatever section they're in again, unless it's like the nosebleeds. So now that the World Series is over, the biggest story in baseball now turns to Juan Soto. He's going to be at the front of the Yankees' minds the entire offseason because he is going into free agency. He was asked about his free agent status after the game, and what he said is not very reassuring to Yankees fans. In fact, it should be downright terrifying. He said he's going to listen to every offer that he gets, and the Yankees don't have an advantage. So, I mean, to be honest, I don't see how the Yankees can afford to keep him. Judge and Stanton on the same lineup, that cost a pretty penny. I mean, it is the Yankees, so maybe they can pull something out, but I think he's gone. The Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Blue Jays are looking to be his main suitors, and I'm not too sure about the Dodgers thing because the Dodgers would have the same problem as the Yankees would, in that they have Freddie Freeman, they have Shohei, they have Mookie, so I don't see how they could afford to bring in Juan Soto either. But I do think that the media is trying to make it happen just so they have something to talk about. I've already seen videos saying Juan Soto to the Dodgers is the Kevin Durant to the Warriors moment the MLB needs. I don't think it's going to happen. And also, even if it did, super teams don't work in baseball the way they do in basketball. Like, in basketball, the impact one individual can have on a game is so outsized that if you have 3 or 4 all-stars on one team, it's essentially game over. In baseball, it's honestly like a series, as far as offense goes, of individualized games all within one bigger game. So, like, you have to have some chemistry on defense, fielding. We saw the Yankees' lack of chemistry back them in the tail. But super teams don't work. And also, it's just like baseball's a lot easier for great players to get into slumps, like Shohei and Aaron Judge in the postseason. So there is no like super team culture in baseball, and I don't think we'll ever really see that. But we'll just have to wait and see. I think the Mets have to be the favorites to get Soto because one, he'll get to stay in New York, so it'll save him the trouble of moving, and they got more cap space, so he can make more money. So I mean, it's a win-win for him, and also the Mets just made the NLCS, so it's not like they're a bad team. He very well could end up back in the World Series and maybe have a better shot to win if his co-stars don't pull an Aaron Judge and disappear on him. So we'll have to wait and see what happens when free agency starts, but those are the four teams to keep an eye on. So moving on from baseball into the NBA, I don't really have a whole lot to get into for the NBA because I haven't had time to watch any of the games. But the biggest story in the NBA this week has nothing to do with the games, and it has to do with Dwayne Wade. So Dwayne Wade was awarded a statue by the Heat to put outside the arena, and it was hideous. It looked more like Cavaliers Dwayne Wade than it did Heat Dwayne Wade. It was just he looked chubby. He was yelling, which is never a good look to have on a statue. It just not a good look all around. I don't know how they let that happen. Like to me, if I'm a team that's making a statue of a star player to honor them, I would commission the statue, approve how it looks, and once we've got okay, statue's set, then announce the date for whatever is going to be Dwayne Wade's statue day. It felt like they announced Dwayne Wade's statue day, and then they said, "Hey, we need somebody to build a statue of Dwayne Wade." They started working on it. It got finished like a week before the ceremony, and they realized how awful it looked and didn't want to call off the ceremony, so they just said, "Well, guess this is what we got now." They can't leave that up. Like that's just disrespectful to Dwayne Wade. Like I don't care how much it costs to make, they've got to touch it up somehow. And I can't imagine that they showed him that before the ceremony. But I mean, I don't know who approved that, but whoever they did needs, if not fired, then at least they need a demotion. So in college football, Ohio State beat Penn State 20-13, which moved them up one of the rankings. Penn State dropped down three. I didn't watch the game, so I can't give too in-depth of an analysis, but it's about what I expected. I was hoping Penn State could pull it out, though, just for more rankings chaos. A&M got upset by South Carolina, so they dropped 5 spots. Alabama managed to go up 3 spots, even though it was a bye week for them, because one, A&M was above them, dropped 5 spots, so now they're above A&M. Clemson dropped 8 spots because they lost to Louisville, and Iowa dropped 6 after losing to Texas Tech. So Alabama is now ranked 11th and are back in playoff contention. So yesterday was WWE Crown Jewel, where we saw Cody Rhodes beat Gunther to become the Crown Jewel champion, a title that nobody outside of the country of Saudi Arabia cares about. And if I had to guess, most people in Saudi Arabia don't care either. And we'll never see this Crown Jewel championship after. We're never going to see it again. They may bring it out on or show pictures of it on Raw and SmackDown this week. After that, you won't see it again until next year when it's time to do this match. But I was surprised that Cody Rhodes won here. I was really expecting Kevin Owens to come out and cost him the match as a way to set up their rivalry, but it looks like the Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens storyline is taking a little bit of a pause right now in order for Kevin Owens and Randy Orton to have a feud first, because those three have been a pretty solid friend group for the most part of the year. And I guess they're going to do it to where Kevin Owens has to get through Randy Orton first before he can get to Cody Rhodes. And Kevin Owens and Randy Orton were supposed to have a match at Crown Jewel ended up being a no contest because the match never got started because they just ended up brawling all over the place. And Randy Orton ended up RKOing Raw General Manager Adam Pearce. And so it was just pure pandemonium. Can't wait to see Randy and KO have an actual match, probably either at Survivor Series or Saturday night's main event in December. The other big story coming out of Crown Jewel is that the original bloodline of Roman Reigns and the Usos lost to Solo Sikoa's new bloodline, with Solo Sikoa pinning Roman Reigns after a series of Samoan spikes. And then after the match, they continued to beat down on Roman and the original bloodline when Sami Zayn's music came out. So on Raw, I've been saying I want to see Sami Zayn incorporated into this new bloodline story. Finally happened. We had Sami come and talk to Jey Uso and say, hey man, like, I don't think you should be involved in this situation. You've moved past them. Let Roman and Jimmy, they did you wrong in the past. Let them hang out to dry and handle their own problems. Don't come to their rescue. And so we saw that. Jey told Sami that he's not family. He doesn't know what this means. And kind of just brushed him off. And Jimmy Uso was there. He said he was going to go talk to Sami and settle things. And at the end of Raw, they see Sami Zayn talking to Solo Sikoa. So it's like, oh, this is where like the whole pro wrestling is a male soap opera thing comes out. It's like, plot twist. You know, is Sami Zayn working for Solo Sikoa? And at the end of Crown Jewel, we saw Sami Zayn come out as they're beating up Roman Reigns, and he goes, and it's like, is he going to help Solo beat up Roman? Is he going to beat up Solo? What's going to happen? And he goes to hug Solo, and Solo hugs him, and he ends up suplexing Solo. And then Solo's alone in the ring, and the Usos, Sami, and Roman all have him surrounded. And Roman and Sami both lunge at Solo at the same time. Solo ducks. Sami kicks Roman in the face, and Solo escapes. And it's like, oh, is that on purpose or what? Or I don't know what they're going with there, because clearly Sami's not working for Solo because he just suplexed him. But I guess it's supposed to make you think that, I don't know, maybe Sami's a loose cannon here. But now they're mad at Sami for kicking Roman in the head, even though it was clearly an accident. But you're not supposed to think logically when it comes to pro wrestling, so we'll have to see what happens on Raw tomorrow. So that is what's going on in the sports world this week. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we will see you next time.